My husband's gonna go sit in his little cocoon. Hi friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Amanda, AceKreates on YouTube and Instagram, and welcome back to my channel. If you're returning, if this is your first time visiting, welcome. I really appreciate you tuning in, and what thumbnail led you to tuning into this video or any of my other videos. Today we're going to talk about my November makes and what I was working on in the crochet and knitting world here in November. I have a decent amount to talk to you about today, but it should be a pretty quick video because I don't have that many finished objects. I have some works in progresses to show you and talk through them, and I have one finished object as well as some acquisitions, and then we'll get you going. So let's get into the video. So the first project that I have is a finished object for you, and it's my second time making this object, and it's gonna be huge. I will try to put in some finished object photos so that you can really see the full depth of it. But this is the Westmont Shawl from TL Yarn Crafts. I'm going to call it the XL version. And I call it that because I actually ended up doing 3 skeins instead of 2. And so it's going to be really hard to show. But I was really supposed to end right at this row, but I added a whole nother mesh section and probably about half of a solid section here, and then did some bind off rows. And I really like it. I made this project for my mother. It's her Christmas gift. She wanted a white shawl, and this is in Tunisian crochet. The pattern is from Toni Lipsey. This yarn is Malabrigo sock from in white. She was really adamant about a white yarn for this, and so I'm really happy with how it turned out. Because this is the second time that I did this project, I made a lot fewer mistakes than I did the first time. I can't tell you how many times I had to rip up rows the first time, and it probably took me twice as long to do because of it. But I didn't make as many mistakes this time. And I was able to weave in my ends pretty much as I was going. So I didn't even have that many ends to weave in. It's already blocked and ready to go. I've got a couple wrinkles in there that I need to kind of get out. But it is ready to go to its final home in Michigan, which I will be going to over the holidays. So she'll get to enjoy it. The reason I made it really big is she wanted something pretty big to fit over her formal for Eastern Star. And so she will be using this more as a traditional shawl, whereas I use my Westmont more as something that kind of wraps around here and hangs here. In this extra large version that I made, it's just, you can't really wear it like this. This is really meant to be worn kind of over the shoulders to keep your shoulders warm. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. It took me about a month. Yeah, about a month to do. I probably could have got it done a lot quicker, but I was waiting for a 3rd skein of the white yarn. I really should have just bought 3 to begin with. But once I saw how the size of 2 skeins, I knew I wanted to do a 3rd, because I think my tension changed quite a bit from my first one to my second one. I think it's just a lot more even. And I did the first one in Malabrigo sock too, so It wasn't the yarn or anything. It wasn't the hooks, because I did the same yarn and the same hooks. So it was definitely my tension changing, just because I'm more experienced in Tunisian crochet now, between the time I first did this and then this time. So yeah, by TL Yarn Crafts, Toni Lipsey of TL Yarn Crafts. It's a very beginner friendly Tunisian crochet shawl. My friend Shura is probably not gonna does not agree with me on that, but you're only doing 2 different stitches in here. Really, you have to do a different bind off, but for the most part, you're only doing 2 Tunisian crochet stitches, and so it's super easy to learn and pick up. You don't need to really look at the pattern once again. Once you get going, you just need to make sure you can count your rows, so that way you know when to transition from section to section. So I would definitely do this again, probably not in the near future, but it's a great fun pattern to play with. If your yarn, to really let your yarn speak, you could play around with it being all one color like I did. And in fact, my other one is all one color too, but it was a more variegated tonal, probably more variegated sock yarn from Malabrigo, not just one solid color. And so you could really play around with different coordinating skeins and color from your skeins and just really let the yarn shine. And so I would definitely recommend this, and I probably will make this again, but I'm gonna see what other Tunisian crochet patterns that I can find up my sleeve before I make another one. But it's pretty simple to make, and it's not that time consuming for me, and it's an easy kind of TV watch when I'm working on this. I don't really have to pay too much attention. The only thing I have to do is count my rows. And the fun part about making the XL version of this is each half was about, by the time I was done, was about 250 stitches. So 500 stitches total. And towards the end, like this last little bit of the pattern between the simple stitch rows and then the I did a couple extra rows of this stitch and then the bind off. Each row was probably an hour because of just how long simple stitch takes. And so while, most of this was pretty fast, these last few rows were very time consuming, and I was just done. And I have a little bit of yarn. In fact, I don't know if I have it up here, but I have a little bit of yarn left, probably about 30 grams, but I wasn't sure how many more rows I could do. And honestly, because each row was taking an hour, I was ready to be done. And so my first shawl ended up being short a couple of rows than the pattern called for because I ran out of yarn. Whereas this time I went way beyond the pattern because that's what I was intending to do. But towards the end, I was just done and I wanted to be done. So this is one of my fall knitting projects done. So that makes 3 completed and done and blocked and or ready to be, actually they're all blocked, and ready to be given to their recipient. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Again, it just kind of refined my Tunisian crochet skills. And so it was a good refresher for me. So I just have to put this in my packed suitcase for Michigan. So that was my only finished object for the month. I know what we're all saying is, Amanda, where's your Kima Kardi? This is where I get sometimes with projects that I'm especially not in love with. I get towards the end and I just procrastinate. And so that's where I'm at. I still just have the ribbing of the center to do and to sew in that final pocket. and I just have yet to do it. So hopefully maybe I get that done in December. But because I'm not in love with it, it's not necessarily a priority for me. And so I could have had 2 objects done this month, but I didn't, and that's okay. So the last time I was able to show you guys this swatch for my sweater weather test. This is from Lindsey at Just the Worsted, and it's due in January. I hit gauge on this, but I was doing the ribbing and I was having such a hard time with the ribbing, and I went up a hook size in my ribbing to help with that. But I wanted to show you one of my panels. So I just have, this is the front panel, and I just have the shoulders to do. I haven't done those yet because this was a little bit of a, this was hard for me. This was really hard for me. This pattern is, it's simple enough for me to read, but I was just having difficulty with the ribbing because it's tight getting into, because of the way the ribbing's done, it's tight getting into those rows, which is why I went up a hook size on the ribbing. And then I tested it out for a couple rows, and it was actually, that larger hook was actually better for me for the whole pattern, because it wouldn't have required me to block stretch as much in blocking. So I just kept that, but I've just had a lot of issues because my ribbing was 52 centimeters. In fact, this is not the front, so we'll show you. My ribbing was 52 centimeters when I just finished the ribbing. And it's a known part of this pattern because it's been talked about in the group chat. But it grew. I knew it was going to grow from 52 centimeters. I just didn't know how big it was going to grow. I actually added in 10 rows, which in hindsight I shouldn't have done. But I didn't think it was going to grow quite as big as it did. But I added in 10 extra rows. So originally it was 49 centimeters, and then it was 52 once I added in those 10 extra rows. But I figured even if it grew like, 12 centimeters, I'd still be, closer to the 66 that I needed to be. Well, when I first measured this, I got the ribbing done, and then I got this whole panel done in about a week. And I was really happy with the progress that I was making. And then I laid it down to do the fit check, and it was measuring 78 centimeters. And 78 centimeters is like 2 sizes too big for me in terms of the final pattern size. And I was heartbroken because I was like, I'm going to have to frog this entire thing and start over. And part of it is my fault, in that I did add in that extra 3 centimeters in the ribbing. And if I just stuck to the stitch count, I would have been smaller, but still pretty oversized. So I was devastated. I was gonna have to frog this. I'm gonna have to frog this. And so I just kind of put it in timeout. And about a week after I finished this, I came back to it and I remeasured. And let me tell you, I don't know if it was the tape, I didn't have enough sleep, or what, but when I remeasured, it was 70 centimeters, which is a lot closer to the 66 than it needs to be. And pretty much probably, if I had not added those 10 extra rows, I would have been a lot closer to 66. So I'm just going to be okay with it being 70 centimeters, and I'm not going to block it as hard. I might just do like a steam block or something like that because I don't really want it to grow too much bigger. But I'm going to be okay with this because it is meant to be oversized. I'm not in the row height, but I do want it to be more of a cropped sweater. So I'm okay with that because that one sweater that I did, the Hawberry sweater, it grew way too much vertically. So I'm banking on making it a little bit more cropped. So that way it's not as long as the pattern calls for. And I know it'll grow just a little bit in blocking and everything. So yay that I don't have to frog this. I am super happy about that. But it's also kind of just put a damper because I was super excited about this pattern. But now I have to start the back panel and I have to do the ribbing. And honestly, ribbing is a nightmare for me. I just don't like ribbing, whether that's this type of ribbing or just normal kind of crochet ribbing. I'm just not a fan of ribbing. And so I know it's something that I have to do, but it's super time consuming. And so I've kind of just been trying to feed my soul with just doing simple projects right now. And so I haven't picked this back up. I started the ribbing, I think I'm like 20 or 30 rows in. I really need to get to the ribbing done this week so that way I can just work on the panels because this is due in early January. And I'm going to have to take this on the road with me to Michigan. And so I really want to be at a good place where possibly I'm done the back panel too. So that way I only have arms to do. And then the top collar ribbing. We'll see. I definitely want to get through the ribbing this week. And maybe like a third or halfway through the panel. But I'm loving the texture and I'm loving the yarn worked up. The other thing that I'm considering is why I'm kind of running into some of these issues just with my gauge and everything is this is Malabrigo Arroyo, which is a sport DK. It probably leans a little bit more towards sport weight based on the yardage because you get like 300 plus yards in your skein. But when I was doing the gauge, like I was hitting the row gauge, which is what I was supposed to be hitting. So that's why I was not concerned because the pattern actually calls for a DK, a fingering, and a lace weight held together, like a mohair or suri held together to make DK or a DK weight yarn. But I had like 4 or 5 skeins of this in my stash and I only needed to pick up a few more skeins from my local yarn store. The problem that I noticed just in all Malabrigo, even though it says it's no dye lot, there's definitely dye lots and there's definitely variation. And so I'm going to have to, with the rest of the skeins, I'm probably going to have to alternate some skeins for a couple rows because some of them, they have a little bit more brown in them. And then some of them are very much like rosy, pinky white, some reds in there, and not as much brown. But I'm going to see. I just don't necessarily care enough. I think that because of the texture and the pattern and how it's worked up, I don't know if you notice it as much. And so I just notice it in the skeins that are caked up. They just don't match quite a bit. But I'm just going to make it work, whether that's through alternating or using different skeins for different things like the arms or the ribbing or things like that, shoulders. This is 2 skeins. This is like, I literally don't even know how I did this, but before I do the couple rows for the shoulders, I got 2 skeins of this. So I'm really happy with that because I might be able to walk away with using less yardage, which again, I think that's because of the whole Malabrigo Arroyo being a sport weight, pattern calls for DK, but I'm hitting gauge. So I'm kind of just going for it. And then I've got a lot of notes on this. So by the next time you see me, when I do my December project update, I will hopefully have, I will have to have at least a back panel done, and then I will be working on my sleeves for this. So again, this is a Just the Worsted pattern test, Lindsey from Just the Worsted. It's called the Sweater Weather. It's a Tunisian crochet sweater, and it'll be released in January, so probably like middle of January. So super excited to see this finished. My next work in progress, not finished, is the Fairbanks Shawl from Toni Lipsey. And I've made some heavy modifications to this. And I want to show you the pattern and talk you through some of those modifications. So here is the pattern so far. I think the last time you saw it, it was probably only that far, maybe into some of the coordinating cream here. But I am definitely on my way through this pattern. I am using the Muscarella Toni Lipsey collection mini skeins and in nylon sock, and then I am using the coordinating color Surf City from the same collection as my alternating color. So some of the modifications that I've done for this pattern is the pattern calls for 2 coordinating colors that you use towards the end. You use one of them to kind of separate your stripes, and then you use another towards the end. I've chosen just to do one color of the coordinating colors because I have so many more mini skeins, because the collection came with 15 mini skeins, and I'm going to do my best to use all of them for this. So I am just using one coordinating color. The other thing is I doubled the number of rows in between each of the colors, the mini skein colors. And so I doubled those rows because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to use all of the yarn if I didn't double it. So I wanted to double it. So I did that. And secondly, this pattern was a little bit too much reminiscent of her iron flat shawl for me, but there is this detailing towards the end of this pattern that I've just kind of incorporated closer towards the beginning. And I was kind of figuring it out. So it's a little wonky at the beginning, but I was not going back. But I added in these spike stitches when I added in a new mini skein, every about like 15 rows, I'm adding in the spike stitch. And so just for some, more kind of visual, I don't know, appearance in the final product. So yeah, I'm about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on my 6th mini skein out of 15. The one I'm working on right now is like almost just a cream. It really blends in with the kind of the coordinating color, but I'm trying to follow, like, unfortunately, or I mean, not fortunately, but I'm trying to follow somewhat of a similar color story pattern, where I'm doing yellow, but using like a neutral because I only had one yellow, blue, purple, green, or another neutral, red, and then I'm kind of repeating that. So like neutral, blue, purple, neutral, because I have these like off-white, creamy browns, creamy tans that I'm kind of using as this green, red, pink kind of a thing. So I'm kind of doing that as how I'm choosing the colors. And then towards the end, it'll probably just be a mishmash because I don't have that many like of the same. I can probably do this about twice, and then I just have to kind of use what's left. Here is, nope, that's the wrong bag. Here are my mini skeins that are left. So that way you can see kind of what's coming next. I have some random bits and bops. So that's kind of what I have left to do. So I think I've, oh, there's one more. So another tan neutral. Wasn't thinking I was going to use the tans and the neutrals, but I was just like, we're going to do it. We're going to make a big, nice shawl and call it a day. So, and then I have one more skein of the Surf City in the nylon sock. So that is a good TV watching project. I've used it when I just needed like mindless. I wanted to crochet, but I didn't want anything difficult. I think I had to take a break away from that sweater weather test. And so that was the perfect project for me to work up. And I will definitely be taking it with me to Michigan when I go for the holidays. I'm going to be looking for another project to take as well, because the sweater weather is going to get done. The shawl's going to get done. So I'm going to bring one more project to work on. I have a knit project in mind, that knit note sweater that I'm trying to make for my daughter. I'm just having some either gauge or just newbie baby knitter kind of issues. When I'm doing the test, or when I'm trying to swatch in around and just do a couple rows of knit for the collar, the needles that it's calling for in the round, like I can't get it back in the round. So I'm wondering if it's a yarn issue, like it's not a heavy enough yarn. So I've tried a different one, but I'm still having that same issue. And so if you're a knitter, do you just change the length of the cord, even though the cord says to use that? Or maybe you have to go smaller because it's for like a toddler instead of an adult. And so for an adult, the cast on would be fine. I don't know if anybody has made the knit note for a toddler, but I would appreciate any kind of advice you might have in the comments below, because it's really defeating, because I have the yarn in my stash that I want to use, and I'm just having trouble with it. And so again, don't know if it's the yarn and the combination of the yarn. I've tried different yarn to see if that would do it better. I don't know if it's the needles, don't know what's going on. So I may take that, I may not take that. So I'll probably be looking in my queue for one more project to take with me so that I have a project. And I'll probably be looking for an easy project. I do have things in my queue on Ravelry. And so I'm going to be going through that to see if there's something that I can take. Actually, you know what? I do have a shawl, a knitted shawl pattern that was gifted to me from a friend. And I told her I was going to do the shawl with her. So I'm probably going to be doing that. She's gotten way farther than I have, because I have to learn how to garter tab. And I don't know how to garter tab. She showed it to me, but I'm going to need another kind of tutorial. But I think it should be an easy enough pattern that I should be able to do it as a newbie shawl or newbie knitter. So that's probably what I will take, because I have some skeins already wound up here that that coordinate that I'd like to use. So that will probably be it now that I think about it. Thanks for talk. But if you have ideas, put it in below on what I could do and take. Yeah, So that is my works in progress. Again, not too many to go through this month. The next thing I want to go through is some acquisitions. And so you might have seen some of these at the SoCal Yarn Festival fair. And so if you have, I apologize, you can skip just this next thing. But I'm trying to find it now. Oh, here it is. Okay. So the first thing I got was, I actually only got two things. Well, one thing actually, but it was a pack. So I got the mini minder from Lemonwood. It's a yarn winder that you can like keep on your hand, so that way it easily unwinds your yarn as you're using it. I love it so far. I've hung it up like on a lamp in my living room, and so I can easily pull yarn that I'm working on for my project. I've used it for both the Westmont Shawl, and I'm using it for the sweater weather test. It's super easy to put a yarn skein on and take this hardware off to put your yarn skein on. I got the lamb design, which is really hard to see, but I got the lamb design. I'll put a link for this in the box below. And then it came with, it was a kit that came with 3 skeins of yarn, and I love Dream in Color yarn. So for those of you who do not know, Lemonwood is a sister company to Dream in Color, and I'm a big fan of Dream in Color, and I got these 3 skeins of yarn. This blue one is called Sage 655. This pink one does not have a name, from what I can see. And this green one is called Hosta 648. But this is lamb and goat fingering weight. It is 90% New Zealand wool, 10% cashmere, and they're 50-gram skeins. And it came with a pattern, so that was really nice that it came with that pattern. So I got the winder and some yarn in my pack, so that was really nice. But that was all I got from the SoCal Fiber Fair. I have a few pre-orders coming in, so either the December recap or the January one will have a much larger acquisition haul. But I have some pre-orders coming in. And then I got off of the Destash server, I ended up getting a sweater quantities worth of La Bien Amie Merino DK, which is 230 meters, 252 yards, and it's 115 gram skein. It's 100% superwash merino, and this is the color Tidal Whispers. So I was able to get it for a much reduced price than actual retail, so that was really nice. I've actually been able to also destash quite a bit. Lately I've destashed a lot of knit crate stuff just through Ravelry, and I've a lot of knit crate, and then some of my Karen cakes. So if you're looking for anything specific, be sure to check my Ravelry to see what I'm destashing, because I keep it on Ravelry all the time, and then from time to time I will post on the Discord server. So if you need an invitation to the Discord server, shoot me a DM in Instagram and I will send it to you, in case you're looking for some gently secondhand things that people have destashed from theirs. It's a really great opportunity to get and, you know, use yarn that other people are destashing. And sometimes you get lucky and it's the yarn you want or you've been looking for. So if you're looking for just one specific skein of something, definitely check it out. I try to get at least, I think what drew me to this versus some other things is it was a decent quantity. So like I can make a sweater out of this. Whereas a lot of times single skeins go, and I'm not really in the market for single skeins. I try to buy at least 2, if not 3 of something, because 2 in fingering weight knitting, I know I can get a top in, but I like to get 3 just in case. And, you know, 6 to 7 DK skeins I can get a sweater out of. And so that's kind of my philosophy, you know, in acquiring new yarn. And so I am still readily trying to destash some yarn. So again, if you're in the market for some yarn, definitely check out my Ravelry where you can see what I'm destashing. Yeah, so that was pretty much my acquisition. It was a low acquisition month for me, which is fine. I'm sure my husband is very happy with that. But I do know I have some pre-orders coming, so I will be sharing those with you in the next few updates, and I look forward to sharing them with you because I'm very excited about them. And I have some plans for some end of year recap videos in the new year. I really want to do a deep dive into like what I've been able to accomplish this year. Thanks to Leslie at Knit California, I was inspired to start a knitting crochet journal. And so I've been keeping track of everything basically since I came back into knitting and crocheting in April. And so I've been keeping track of all the yarns that I've purchased, all the yarns that I've used, all the projects I've cast on, all the projects I've finished. And so I kind of want to do a data kind of dump and share that all with you, as well as kind of going through all of my projects that I've made throughout the year and even goal setting for the upcoming year. I want to look at possibly a net negative stash, which just means that I need to prioritize like getting some projects done so that they can be counted against my leaving my stash, and just really prioritize what I want to work on this upcoming year. I also want to make sure that I'm focusing on some knitting because I really have some high goals and aspirations for what I want to knit, but I'm still in this like very much I'm a beginner and I'm struggling a little bit with knitting, and I really want to make tops and sweaters and beautiful things. My skill set's not there yet. And so that's why I'm trying to take it easy with like some baby stuff with yarn that doesn't really matter to me, because she'll grow out of it in a year. And in fact, I don't even know if I'm going to make the 1 to 2 anymore. I might make a 2 to 3 or the 3 to 4 because she is growing like a weed, and she is wearing 18-month clothes at 12 months. And so I really want something that she can wear a little bit more. And so I'm probably going to reevaluate that. So that is today's video. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a huge thumbs up and smash that like button. And be sure to subscribe if you are new around here. It really helps me out. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And so I would really appreciate if you would subscribe. If you like videos like this where I talk about all things crochet, knitting, yarn acquisitions, yarn, destash, yarn purchases. And so I take you along on a lot of my journeys. I've got a lot of other videos on the channel where I go to fiber festivals and fiber fairs. I have some plans this year that include flock. I'm waiting for the tickets to go live because I am super excited about Flock this year, and I will probably add in another non-local fiber festival. So I'm trying to decide which one that could be. That might be Rhinebeck, that might be DFW, Maryland Sheep and Wool. So we'll see. I have a lot of exciting plans, and I want to take you along. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.